Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I pray that you're having a wonderful and blessed day and not allowing what's going on in the world to affect you to the point that you're not focused on what your Heavenly Father has for you to do. And the most important thing that He wants you to focus on is your health. I know we're dealing with difficult times and we're dealing with so much that's going on in the world. But go to your Heavenly Father for guidance and clarity and understanding how to deal with things, how to handle things. Don't try to handle it on your own. I want to continue talking about the battle of the mind and what I dealt with and how Jesus got me focused and getting clarity on the Bible, how to fight. Because keep in mind, the main focus that Satan wants you to do is forget about what you have learned in the Bible, forget how to get understanding, and it's better for him for you not to be around people who can help give you clarity of the word. What he's going to do is send people your way to keep you confused, to keep you lost. And that includes not only just strangers, but that also include family and friends. And I have dealt with some people who are friends and who are family who should not be ministering the word to anyone because they have not gotten clarity of the Bible theirself. As I mentioned to you in my other recording, I was married to a pastor. But I did not get clarity of the word even being married to my husband. And the most important thing your Father in heaven wants you to do is understand what you're reading. So that you can fight against Satan's tactics that he's going to use. And Satan used a lot of clever, sneaky tactics to get you confused. So you won't get clarity, so you won't understand how to fight and win against all his trickery that he does. I'm going to share with you today about how I dealt with a Jezebel spirit, how God talked to me, and how I started communicating with Jesus, our Father in heaven, his Son. Now, I remember this particular situation day that I was in the house, and by this time it had been like almost 2 months, not quite, but almost 2 months, almost going into 3 months. And this was in the year 2019. As I said in the other recording, it was in year 2019 in the month of February. So I was still in the year 2019. So it had to be like at this point about maybe almost going on 3 months. And so I was dealing with the verbal attack of not only hearing one demon talk to me, but multiple. And I remember sitting on the sofa and I was looking at this particular episode of It's Supernatural. And they had this couple on there, and this gentleman wrote this book called Soul Ties, and he was talking about different things from soul ties. And then there was another gentleman who came on a little bit after him, and he was discussing about how when you are battling against Satan's attacks and you're winning in the attacks, Satan will send more demons to attack you to keep trying to break you down. And so when I was starting to get attacked by multiple demonic spirits, it was because Satan was afraid that I would win against his sneaky tactics that he was doing. And that was the direction that he knew that I was going by looking at all the spiritual networks of different pastors ministering, guests talking about different things. And this one gentleman was pointing out one thing. He was talking about when you're fighting against Satan and you start understanding how to fight, the next step he's going to do to keep trying to tear you down, he's going to send multiple demons after you. And this is what I was dealing with at this time. And the things that I was hearing that was not of God, the words that the demons were using that was not of God, it was really bad. It was to the point that I didn't understand how I was going to fight, but I knew that if I just stayed focused on my Heavenly Father and kept crying out to Him, He would start hearing me. And finally, when I just listened and was just being still, that's when I heard God talk to me. I was sitting in the living room, sitting on the sofa, and I was crying out to God. And when I just was just being still and just saying to myself, I have to keep fighting. And God said, talk to my son. And let me just say, when his voice came in, those demons started discussing among themselves, who was that? Now they knew who that was. They became frightened and fearful. After hearing that voice, it was so strong. The energy of it was beautiful. I just thought someone was just there, just standing there, but no one was. Then I started listening to this other gentleman talk about soul ties, and he was talking about how Satan orchestrates and put people together that are not supposed to be together. That if you are a person who's very spiritual, very much into the word, Satan will put you with someone who's the opposite and try to give that imagery that this person is from God in heaven, sent to you to be in a relationship. And at that time, I was dealing with these weird situations with gentlemen trying to flirt with me who was just not spiritual, who was coming and trying to get close to me. And it was getting to the point that it was becoming too overwhelming for me to even deal with. So Satan was influencing men to do certain things that I know it is no way in the world I would date that person. And so I turned down every invitation because it was not sent by God in heaven. This person was not. I have a responsibility of a son who has autism. There's no way in the world, as a person who loved God so much and loved Jesus so much, is going to get involved in a relationship with a man who is already married. And that was two that was trying to talk to me. And then one that I already knew was a no. The sneaky tactics that Satan uses to get you to believe that this is from God in heaven, he's going to use everything he can think of. And he's going to try to touch on the situation of where he believed that you're vulnerable at. Satan knew I'm a widow, knew that I'm a single parent, and then would often use this term influencing people saying and asking me, are you lonely? Because I'm by myself. It's me and my son, and then I have family who live here where I live at, but I'm not in a relationship with anyone. So Satan was using that tactic. Well, I gotta get her in a relationship with someone who is the opposite of her, to make her feel like she's in desperate need for a man to be with her. And so, listening to that gentleman and hearing God tell me speak to his son, I started speaking to Jesus. And I started talking to him. And he started talking to me right there, really fast. And he started sharing with me how all this happened. How it was, how Satan entered into a door and tried to break me down. He started showing me layers of things that I had did over the years that allowed this to really happen like this. Because when I say it was really, really bad, it wasn't just me dealing with the battle of the mind. I was seeing like shadows. The more I was communicating with these demonic spirits and Satan, I started seeing shadows. And my son started seeing them too, because I thought maybe I was going crazy. I even told my son I need to check myself into a place to get help from a doctor, because I think I'm losing my mind. I think my age is a factor of me losing my mind. Right now I'm 52. I was only 49 at that time. So I thought maybe I was just losing my mind, like I need to see a doctor about my health. But then I started thinking about when I cared for my husband when he was ill. God helped me up through that. Caring for my son, and when we took a vacation, God helped me up for that, because there were times that my body, before I was even dealing with this, I was so drained from being a caregiver to my husband physically. I just felt like I just could not even go out the house sometimes for long periods of time. So I would go out and then come back home, because I felt like my body just was not strong enough to handle a lot of things, and it wasn't. So I had to take my time. So dealing with that, and then talking to my son and telling him, son, I think I need to go see a doctor. My son just looked down, because he had already been through so much with the loss of his father and me caring for his dad. I just started saying, no, Father in heaven is with me, because I know God helped me through so much of caring for my husband and my son at the same time. I have to be strong. I could not be weak. And so the more I talk to my son, and the more I start realizing that God has not left me, I knew at that point I could not be weak and allow Satan to break me. And so that's why I start crying out to God so much. And then he spoke to me and said, talk to my son. But he only spoke to me once I got quiet, once I got still, once I stopped worrying, once I stopped fearing. It was scary, but I had to trust. And then when Jesus started talking to me, he started telling me about how this opened a door for Satan to enter into my life like that. From playing bad video games, from watching these horrible reality shows, to being mean and being in the center of something I had no business being in the center of, to always coming home and talking to my son about what this person is doing, and just being negative. Doing sinful nature things that are not pleasing to God's eye. Lord showed me layers. It was like, if you ever see someone make lasagna or some particular fruit where they put layers of crust, thin layers. Imagine that being on top of each other. I had a friend named Yasmin that would make this beautiful dessert. She was from India. And she would put these layers and layers of thin layers of dough. And then put the filling in, and then put more thin layers. And she would always bring that to work for us as co-workers, because it was one of her favorite desserts to make. And it was very good. And that was the only thing that came to my mind seeing that. So in the next recording, I'm going to share that with you and some other stuff that you really need to know. Have a blessed day, and allow God to guide you into doing the things that he needs you to do to get clarity of the word, and to get it out there, and to get people to understand what's going on in the world. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.